The first rays of morning sunlight crept through the blinds, painting golden stripes across the bedroom wall. David stirred slowly, his mind foggy from sleep. For a moment, everything felt normal. Then the memories of last night came flooding, back like a movie playing in slow motion. She had walked into his room, just like that. No warning, no explanation. One minute he was reading on his bed, and the next minute she was standing there in his doorway. The way she looked at him, the way she smiled, it was like something out of a dream. But this was real. Very real. David sat up carefully, running his hand through his messy hair. The other side of the bed was empty, but he could hear soft sounds coming from the kitchen, the gentle clinking of dishes, the quiet hum of someone moving around. His heart did a little flip. She was still here. He pulled on a t-shirt and walked toward the kitchen, his bare feet silent on the cold floor. There she was, standing at his counter, wearing his favorite blue button-down shirt. It was way too big for her, hanging down to her thighs like a dress. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she was making coffee like she belonged there. "Good morning," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. She turned around with a smile that made his chest feel warm. "Hey there. Hope you don't mind. I borrowed your shirt and made some coffee. I'm kind of a morning person." "I definitely don't mind." David leaned against the doorway, watching her. She looked different in the morning light. More real somehow. Less like the mysterious woman who had appeared in his room last night, and more like someone he could actually know. She poured 2 cups of coffee and handed him one. Their fingers brushed for just a second, and he felt that same electric feeling from the night before. "So," she said, looking down at her cup, "I guess we should talk about last night." David nodded, taking a sip of his coffee. It was perfect. Not too strong, not too weak. "Yeah, we probably should." They moved to his small dining table, sitting across from each other. The morning felt different from the night, quieter, more thoughtful, less like a dream, and more like real life. "I want you to know," she began, her voice gentle but serious. "What happened last night? It wasn't something I normally do. I don't just show up at someone's place like that." "I figured," David said with a small smile. "I mean, if you did, I'd probably have heard about it by now." She laughed, a real laugh that made her whole face light up. "You're funny. I like that about you." Then her expression grew more serious. "But really, I need to explain myself. You deserve to know why I did what I did." David set down his coffee cup and gave her his full attention. He could see that whatever she was about to say was important to her. "I'm going through a divorce," she said quietly. "Have been for months now. It's been difficult, really difficult. And last night I just felt so invisible, you know? Like I didn't matter anymore. Like nobody would ever see me the way they used to." David felt something tighten in his chest. He wanted to reach across the table and take her hand, but he wasn't sure if that would be okay. "My marriage ended because we stopped seeing each other," she continued. "We became like roommates who barely talked. I started to wonder if maybe the problem was me. Maybe I wasn't worth looking at anymore." "That's not true," David said quickly. "Trust me, that's definitely not true." She looked up at him and he saw something vulnerable in her eyes. "When I saw you yesterday at the coffee shop, and then later when we bumped into each other at the bookstore, you actually looked at me. Really looked at me. Like I was interesting. Like I mattered." David remembered those moments. He had noticed her right away. The way she moved, the way she smiled when she thought nobody was watching, the way she got completely absorbed in the book she was reading. "You do matter," he said, "and you are interesting, very interesting." She smiled, but there was still uncertainty in her voice. "I don't know what I'm doing, David. I don't know what any of this means, or what happens next. I just know that for the first time in months I felt like myself again last night. I felt seen." David reached across the table and gently touched her hand. "We don't have to figure everything out right now. We can take this one day at a time." She looked down at their joined hands. "What if this is too complicated? I mean, I'm still technically married. The divorce papers are filed, but it's not final yet. And I have a teenage daughter who doesn't even know I'm dating anyone. It is complicated, David admitted. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. Sometimes the best things in life are complicated. She squeezed his hand. You really think so? I think, David said carefully, that what matters is how we feel when we're together, and how we treat each other. The rest, we'll figure out as we go. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking their coffee and watching the morning light grow stronger outside the window. David found himself studying her face, noticing little details he had missed the night before. The way her nose crinkled slightly when she smiled, the small scar above her left eyebrow, the way she bit her lower lip when she was thinking. Can I ask you something? She said eventually. Of course. Do you ever feel like you're sleepwalking through your life? Like you're going through all the motions but not really living? David thought about it. Yeah, actually, I do. Or at least I did until recently. When did it change? David looked at her, sitting there in his kitchen in his shirt, her hair catching the morning light. About 12 hours ago. She blushed, a soft pink color that made her look younger. You're smooth, I'll give you that. I'm not trying to be smooth, David said honestly. I'm just telling you the truth. Yesterday felt like the first real day I'd had in a long time. She stood up and walked around the table to where he was sitting. Without saying anything, she sat down on his lap and wrapped her arms around his neck. Not in a romantic way, more like she needed to be close to someone who understood. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. For what? For making me feel human again. David held her close, breathing in the scent of his shampoo in her hair mixed with something that was uniquely her. He realized that she had done the same thing for him, made him feel alive again, made him remember what it was like to connect with another person. They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other in the quiet morning light. Neither of them knew what would happen next, but for now, this moment was enough. It was real, and it was theirs, and it was the beginning of something that neither of them had expected but both of them desperately needed. 3 days had passed since that perfect morning in his kitchen. David kept replaying those moments in his mind. The way she looked in his shirt, the way she held him, the way everything felt so right and natural between them. But now, sitting at his desk at work, he was about to discover that life had other plans. David Martinez? The voice was sharp, unfriendly. David looked up from his computer screen to see a tall man in an expensive suit standing beside his desk. The man's face was hard, his eyes cold. I need to talk to you. I'm sorry. Who are you? David asked, already feeling uncomfortable. Something about this guy screamed trouble. I'm Robert Chen, Lisa's husband. The man's voice got even colder when he said the word, husband. And I think you know exactly why I'm here. David's stomach dropped. Lisa. That was her name. Lisa. She had told him on their second coffee date, 2 days after that morning in his kitchen. They had been taking things slow, getting to know each other properly. But apparently, her husband, soon-to-be, ex-husband, had found out about them. Look, Mr. Chen, David said, standing up slowly. He could feel his coworkers starting to stare. Maybe we should take this conversation somewhere private. No, I think here is perfect, Robert said loudly. I want everyone to know what kind of man you are, the kind who goes after married women. David felt his face get hot. That's not what this is about, and you know it. Your marriage was over long before I came into the picture. Robert stepped closer. My marriage is none of your business. Lisa is my wife, and she's going through a difficult time right now. She's not thinking clearly. But you took advantage of that, didn't you? I didn't take advantage of anyone, David said firmly. Lisa is a grown woman who can make her own decisions. She's confused and vulnerable, Robert shot back, and you're just some guy who saw an opportunity and took it. David wanted to punch this man, The way he talked about Lisa like she was a child who couldn't think for herself made David angry, but he was at work, and causing a scene would only make things worse for everyone. "I think you should leave," David said as calmly as he could manage. "I'm not going anywhere until we settle this," Robert said. "Stay away from my wife or there's going to be a problem." "Is there an issue here?" David's boss, Mr. Williams, had appeared beside them. He looked concerned but also annoyed that this drama was happening in his office. "No issue," Robert said with a fake smile. "Just having a friendly conversation with Mr. Martinez here about boundaries and respect." Mr. Williams looked at David. "Maybe you should take the rest of the day off. Handle whatever this is outside of work hours." David nodded, feeling embarrassed and frustrated. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the elevator, Robert following behind him. Once they were outside the building, Robert grabbed David's arm. "Listen to me very carefully," he said in a low voice. "Lisa and I have been married for 15 years. We have a daughter together. You think you can just waltz in and break up a family? From what Lisa told me, your family was already broken," David said, pulling his arm free. "She said you two haven't been happy in years." Robert's face got red. What Lisa says and what's actually happening are two different things. She's going through a phase. Women do that sometimes when they hit a certain age. They think they want something different, but what they really want is attention. David stared at him in disbelief. "Do you even hear yourself? You're talking about your wife like she's a car that needs fixing." "I know my wife better than some stranger she met at a coffee shop," Robert snapped. "And I know she'll come to her senses once she realizes what she's throwing away." "Maybe," David said quietly. "She already knows exactly what she's throwing away. And maybe that's the point." Robert's expression turned dangerous. "Stay away from her. I'm not going to tell you again." He walked away, leaving David standing on the sidewalk feeling shaken and angry. His phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Lisa. "Hey, can we meet? Something happened and I need to talk to you." David called her right away. "Lisa, what's wrong? Your husband just showed up at my work." "Oh no," she said, and he could hear the worry in her voice. "I was afraid this would happen. Can you meet me at that little park near the river? The one with the benches overlooking the water? I'll be right there." 20 minutes later, David found Lisa sitting on a bench staring out at the river. She looked tired, stressed. When she saw him coming, she stood up and hugged him tightly. "I'm so sorry," she said against his chest. "I never wanted him to drag you into this." "How did he find out about us?" David asked, holding her close. "I don't know. Maybe he saw us together somewhere, or maybe he's been watching me. He's been acting strange lately, showing up at places I go, asking questions about where I've been." She pulled back and looked at him. "What did he say to you?" David told her about the confrontation at his office. With each detail, Lisa's face got more upset. "This is exactly why I left him," she said, sitting back down on the bench. "He thinks he owns me. He thinks he can control everything I do." David sat beside her. "Are you okay? I mean, really okay? Because if he's been following you around—" "I'm fine," Lisa said quickly. "He's not violent or anything. He's just controlling. He always has been. I just never realized how bad it was until I started thinking about leaving." They sat in silence for a while, watching the water flow by. David could see that Lisa was struggling with something. "You're having second thoughts," he said finally. Lisa looked at him with surprise. "What?" "About us. About this. I can see it on your face." She sighed. "It's not that I'm having second thoughts about you. It's just, this is getting complicated, really fast. He's threatening to make the divorce difficult if I don't stop seeing you. He says he'll fight for full custody of Mia. Can he do that? Probably not, but he can make it expensive and ugly. And Mia doesn't need to see her parents fighting in court over her." Lisa rubbed her temples like she had a headache. "Maybe we should slow down, just until the divorce is final." David felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Is that what you want?" "I don't know what I want anymore," Lisa said honestly. A week ago, my life was simple. Unhappy, but simple. Now everything is upside down. David took her hand. Look at me. When she did, he continued. I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me to go. But I need you to be honest with me. Are we doing this, or aren't we? Lisa squeezed his hand. I want to do this. I really do. But I need some time to figure out how to handle Robert and protect Mia at the same time. How much time? I don't know. A few weeks, maybe. Just until I can get a lawyer and make sure he can't use our relationship against me in court. David nodded, even though every part of him wanted to argue. Okay, but Lisa? Yeah? Don't let him make you afraid to live your life. That's what he wants, to control you even after you've left him. Lisa leaned over and kissed his cheek softly. Thank you for understanding. And David? Yeah? This isn't over. I promise you that. As she walked away, David stayed on the bench watching the river. He had a feeling that Robert Chen wasn't going to make this easy for any of them. But for the first time in his life, David had found something worth fighting for. And he wasn't going to let anyone take that away without a fight. 2 weeks had crawled by like months. 2 weeks of stolen phone calls when Lisa's daughter was at school. 2 weeks of quick coffee meetings that felt rushed and anxious. 2 weeks of David lying awake at night wondering if he was fighting for something that was already lost. Then, on a rainy Thursday evening, his phone rang. David, it's me. Lisa's voice sounded different, lighter somehow. Are you busy this weekend? Not particularly. Why? I want to go away with you, somewhere we can just be ourselves without looking over our shoulders or worrying about who might see us. David sat up straighter on his couch. Are you sure? What about... I talked to my lawyer today, Lisa interrupted. She said that as the divorce papers are filed and we're living separately, Robert can't use me dating someone against me. Apparently his threats were mostly just hot air. And Mia. She's going to spend the weekend with her grandmother. Robert's mother, actually. She likes me better than she likes him. Lisa laughed, and David realized how much he had missed that sound. So what do you say? Want to run away to the beach with me for a couple of days? Yes, David said without hesitation. Absolutely yes. Friday afternoon, they drove out to a small coastal town about 2 hours away. Lisa had found a little bed and breakfast right on the water. It was the kind of place that felt like it hadn't changed in 50 years. Wooden shutters, a wraparound porch, and a view of the ocean that went on forever. This is perfect, David said as they checked in. The elderly woman behind the desk smiled at them like they were newlyweds. Their room was small but cozy, with French doors that opened onto a balcony overlooking the water. Lisa immediately walked out onto the balcony and took a deep breath of the salt air. I haven't been to the ocean in years, she said. Robert always said beach vacations were a waste of money. David joined her on the balcony, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Well, Robert isn't here now. No, Lisa said, leaning back against him. He's definitely not. They spent that first evening walking on the beach as the sun went down. The sand was cool under their bare feet, and the sound of the waves was better than any music David had ever heard. Lisa had rolled up her jeans and was walking right at the water's edge, letting the waves wash over her feet. Tell me something about yourself that I don't know, she said, bending down to pick up a shell. Like what? I don't know. Something from when you were a kid, something that made you who you are. David thought for a moment. When I was 12, my dad left. Just packed up one day and moved across the country. Didn't even say goodbye. Lisa stopped walking and looked at him. That's terrible. Yeah, it was pretty bad. But you know what the weird part was? I wasn't even that surprised. He'd been checking out of our family for years before he actually left. My mom used to make excuses for him. He was working too much, he was stressed, he just needed some space. But I could see it in his eyes. He had already left us in his mind long before he packed his bags. Is that why you've never been married? Lisa asked gently. Maybe. I always told myself I was just waiting for the right person, But honestly, I think I was scared of turning into him, of being the kind of person who could just walk away from someone who loved me. Lisa took his hand. You're nothing like that. I can tell. How can you tell? Because you're here. You could have run away when Robert showed up at your work. You could have decided I was too much trouble, but you didn't. They found a piece of driftwood to sit on and watched the stars come out over the water. The beach was empty except for them. My turn, David said. Tell me something about you. Lisa was quiet for a long time, drawing patterns in the sand with a stick. I wanted to be a photographer, she said finally. That was my dream when I was young. I had this old camera my grandfather gave me, and I used to take pictures of everything. Birds, flowers, people when they weren't looking. I was pretty good at it too. What happened? Life happened. I met Robert in college. He was studying business, and he had all these big plans for success. He said photography was a nice hobby, but it wasn't a real career. So I changed my major to education because that was more practical. She threw the stick into the waves. I taught elementary school for a few years after we got married, but then Mia came along and Robert wanted me to stay home with her. Do you regret it? Not having Mia? Never. She's the best thing I ever did. But giving up photography? Yeah, I regret that. I regret letting someone else decide what my dreams were worth. David stood up and pulled her to her feet. It's not too late, you know. You could start taking pictures again. I'm 42 years old, David. I haven't picked up a camera in 15 years. So? You're still the same person who used to see the world through that lens. That doesn't just disappear. Lisa looked at him in the moonlight. You really believe that? I really believe that. In fact, I have an idea. The next morning, David surprised Lisa by taking her to a little camera shop in the town center. It was one of those old-fashioned places that still developed film and sold vintage equipment. Pick one, he said, gesturing to the display case full of cameras. David, I can't let you buy me a camera. That's too much. It's not too much. Besides, consider it a selfish gift. I want to see the world the way you see it. Lisa spent 20 minutes examining different cameras before settling on a simple digital SLR. The shop owner, an old man with kind eyes, spent another 20 minutes showing her how to use it. The basics never change, he told her. It's all about light and timing and seeing something that other people might miss. They spent the rest of the day exploring the town and the coastline. Lisa took pictures of everything: seagulls diving for fish, an old man feeding pigeons on a bench, children building sandcastles the way the afternoon light hit the weathered buildings in the historic district. David watched her work, and it was like seeing her come alive. She moved differently when she had the camera in her hands, more confident, more purposeful, like she had found a part of herself she had forgotten existed. You're really good at this, he said, as she crouched down to photograph a cat sleeping in a sunny doorway. I'm rusty, she said, but she was smiling. No, you're not. You have an eye for this. You always did. That evening, they sat on their balcony sharing a bottle of wine and going through the pictures on the camera's display screen. They were beautiful, not just technically well composed, but full of life and emotion. I forgot how good this feels, Lisa said softly. Creating something, capturing a moment that will never happen again exactly the same way. Is this what you want to do? I mean, really do, not just as a hobby? Lisa set down her wine glass and looked at him. Are you asking if I want to try to make a living as a photographer at my age with no recent experience and a teenage daughter to support? Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking. She was quiet for a long moment. It's scary. I've been depending on other people for so long. First my parents, then Robert. I don't know if I remember how to depend on myself. You're stronger than you think, David said. Look what you've already done. You left a marriage that wasn't making you happy. You're starting over at 42. That takes courage. Lisa leaned over and kissed him. Not the quick, anxious kisses they had shared over the past 2 weeks, but a real kiss. The kind that said she wasn't going anywhere. I love how you see me, she whispered against his lips. Like I'm brave and talented and worth something. You are all of those things. I'm just the first person to say it out loud in a while. Promise me something, Lisa said. Anything. Promise me that no matter what happens with us, you won't let me go back to being invisible. Even if this doesn't work out between us. Promise me you won't let me forget who I really am. David took her hands in his. Lisa, I promise you that. But I also promise you something else. What? I'm not going to let this not work out. I'm all in. Whatever it takes. She smiled. And in the moonlight, reflecting off the water, David could see tears in her eyes. But they were good tears. The kind that came from hope instead of sadness. I'm all in too, she said. For the first time in my life, I'm ready to fight for what I want. They stayed up talking until almost dawn, making plans and sharing dreams. They hadn't spoken out loud in years. And when the sun came up over the ocean, they were still there on the balcony, holding each other and watching the world wake up around them. The magic of their weekend at the beach felt like a distant memory as David sat in his car outside the family court building. 3 months had passed since that perfect getaway, and now reality was hitting them both like a cold wave. Lisa was inside, meeting with her lawyer about complications in her divorce that seemed to get worse every week. Robert had decided to fight everything. He was challenging the property division, demanding more time with their daughter Mia, and making the whole process as difficult and expensive as possible. David knew this was partly because of him. Robert couldn't stand the idea that Lisa had moved on and found happiness with someone else. His phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Meeting running late. Mia's soccer practice ends at 4. Can you pick her up? She knows you're coming. David stared at the message for a moment. This would be the first time he'd be alone with Mia, Lisa's 15-year-old daughter. They had met a few times when Lisa brought her around, but always with Lisa there as a buffer. Now it would just be the two of them. He drove to the school and waited by the soccer field, watching the girls finish their practice. Mia was easy to spot. She had her mother's dark hair and the same focused expression Lisa got when she was concentrating on something. When practice ended, she jogged over to his car. Hey, David, she said, tossing her soccer bag in the back seat. Mom said you'd pick me up. Thanks. No problem. How was practice? Good. We're getting ready for regionals next month. Mia buckled her seatbelt and looked at him. Can we stop for ice cream? Mom never lets me have ice cream after practice because she says it's too close to dinner. David grinned. Well, since I'm not your mom, I think ice cream sounds like a great idea. They went to a little ice cream shop near the school. Mia ordered a huge sundae with extra chocolate sauce, and David got a simple vanilla cone. They sat at a table by the window, and for a few minutes they just ate in comfortable silence. So, Mia said finally, you and my mom are pretty serious, huh? David almost choked on his ice cream. Well, we care about each other a lot. That's not what I asked. Mia looked at him with eyes that were way too wise for 15. My dad thinks you're trying to replace him or something, but I told him that's stupid because you're nothing like him. What do you mean? My dad never picked me up from practice. He was always too busy with work, and he definitely never would have stopped for ice cream just because I asked. Mia stirred her sundae thoughtfully. You make my mom happy, like really happy. I haven't seen her smile as much as she does now, in years. David felt a warm feeling in his chest. Your mom makes me happy too? Good, because she deserves to be happy. She spent way too many years trying to make my dad happy, and he never even noticed. Mia looked up at him. But I have to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Okay. Are you going to stick around? Because my mom has been hurt enough. If you're just having fun or whatever, you should probably leave now before she gets more attached. David set down his ice cream and looked at this smart, protective teenager who was clearly looking out for her mother. Mia, I can promise you that I'm not going anywhere unless your mom tells me to go. I love her. And I think she's amazing. Both of you. Mia studied his face for a long moment. Okay, I believe you. But if you hurt her, I know where you live. David laughed. Fair enough. Also, Mia continued, Just so you know, I'm not looking for a new dad. I already have one, even if he's being a jerk right now. But I wouldn't mind having you around as like, I don't know, a friend or whatever. I'd like that, David said. And for what it's worth, I'm not trying to replace your dad. I just want to be someone who cares about you and your mom. They finished their ice cream and drove home, chatting about school and soccer and movies. David found himself enjoying Mia's company. She was funny and smart, with her mother's kindness but also a strength that seemed uniquely her own. When they got to Lisa's house, she was already home, looking exhausted and stressed. "How did the meeting go?" David asked, giving her a hug. "Terrible. Robert is being impossible. He's demanding that I give up half my photography equipment in the settlement, even though I bought most of it with my own money after we separated." Lisa rubbed her temples. "And now he's saying he wants Mia to live with him during the school year." "What?" Mia looked up from her homework. "He can't do that, can he?" "He can try," Lisa said. "But don't worry, sweetie. My lawyer says it's just a negotiation tactic. He's trying to scare me into accepting a worse deal on everything else." David could see how much this was wearing on Lisa. The stress was affecting her work, her health, and her happiness. The confident, glowing woman from their beach weekend was being replaced by someone who looked tired and defeated. "Maybe," David said carefully, "we should talk about slowing things down between us until this is all settled." Both Lisa and Mia looked at him in surprise. "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "I mean, if my being in your life is making the divorce more complicated, maybe I should step back for a while. Let you handle this without Robert being able to use our relationship against you." "No," Mia said firmly. "That's exactly what my dad wants. He wants to control Mom even after they're divorced. If you leave now, he wins." Lisa sat down on the couch and put her head in her hands. "I don't know what to do anymore. I'm so tired of fighting. Maybe it would be easier if I just gave him what he wants." David sat beside her and took her hand. "Lisa, look at me. 3 months ago you were miserable. You felt invisible and worthless. Do you remember that?" She nodded. "Now look at yourself. You're building a photography business. You're taking beautiful pictures. You're fighting for what you want instead of just accepting what other people decide you deserve. Are you really going to let Robert take that away from you?" "It's not that simple, David. I have to think about Mia. What if he really does try to get custody? What if I lose her because I was too stubborn to compromise?" "Mom," Mia said, sitting down on Lisa's other side, "Dad doesn't really want me to live with him. He just wants to win. If I had to live with him full-time, he'd be miserable within a week. He doesn't even know what grade I'm in." Lisa looked at her daughter with surprise. "What?" "Last week when I went to dinner with him, he asked me how my freshman year was going. Mom, I'm a sophomore. I've been a sophomore for 2 months. David squeezed Lisa's hand. "Mia's right. Robert is bluffing. He's trying to wear you down so you'll give up and let him have his way. But you're stronger than that." "What if I'm not?" Lisa asked quietly. "What if I'm just fooling myself and I really am the weak person he always said I was?" "You're not weak," David said firmly. "Weak people don't leave 15-year marriages to start over. Weak people don't build new careers from scratch. Weak people don't fight for their dreams. And weak people definitely don't raise daughters who can threaten grown men in ice cream shops," Mia added with a grin. Lisa laughed despite herself. "What?" "I told David that if he hurt you, I'd hunt him down," Mia explained. "I was very intimidating. I was terrified," David said solemnly, which made both Lisa and Mia laugh. Lisa wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. "Okay. You're both right. I'm not giving up. Robert can make this as difficult as he wants, but I'm not backing down." "Good," David said, "and I'm not going anywhere either. We're all in this together." "All of us?" Mia asked. "All of us," David confirmed. "If that's okay with you," Mia smiled. "Yeah, it's okay with me. But David?" "Yeah? Next time we get ice cream, can we not tell Mom? She really does have strong feelings about the pre-dinner ice cream thing." David looked at Lisa, who was trying not to smile. "Your secret is safe with me." What secret? Lisa asked innocently. See? David said to Mia. Your mom's not weak at all. She's just sneaky. For the first time in weeks, Lisa looked like herself again. The fight wasn't over, but she wasn't fighting it alone anymore. 8 months later, David stood in what used to be his dining room, now converted into Lisa's photography studio. Prints hung on makeshift lines stretched across the ceiling, and camera equipment was neatly organized on shelves he had built along the walls. The morning light streaming through the windows created the perfect natural lighting Lisa needed for her portrait work. The Hendersons will be here in 20 minutes, Lisa called from the kitchen where she was making coffee. Are you sure you don't mind clearing out for a couple hours? Are you kidding? I love watching you work, David replied, adjusting one of the backdrop stands. Besides, little Tommy Henderson is hilarious. Last time you photographed him, he told me all about his pet lizard for 30 minutes. Lisa appeared in the doorway, with 2 coffee mugs, smiling. She looked different now, confident, relaxed, happy. Her photography business had taken off faster than either of them had expected. Word of mouth in their small town had spread quickly, and now she was booked solid with family portraits, senior pictures, and even some commercial work. I still can't believe this is my life, she said, handing him a mug. 6 months ago, I was crying in a lawyer's office, and now I'm running my own business out of our dining room. Our dining room, David repeated with a grin. I like the sound of that. They had officially moved in together 3 months ago after Lisa's divorce was finally finalized. It had been a long, difficult process, but in the end, Robert had gotten tired of paying lawyer fees and agreed to a fair settlement. Lisa kept the house she had been renting, plus half their savings and her photography equipment. Mia chose to live with her mother during the school year and spend summers with her father. Speaking of our dining room, Lisa said, I have some news. Good news or bad news? Definitely good news. I got a call yesterday from the art gallery, downtown. They want to do a show featuring local photographers, and they asked me to be one of the featured artists. David nearly dropped his coffee mug. Lisa, that's amazing. When is it? Next month. They want to display 20 of my best pieces. She looked nervous but excited. It's a big deal. There will be critics there, and buyers, and other professional photographers. You're going to be incredible, David said, pulling her into a hug. Your work deserves to be seen by everyone. The front door opened and Mia's voice called out, Mom, I'm home. She had spent the weekend with her father, something that happened every other weekend now. The arrangement was working out well. Robert had realized that being a part-time parent was actually more suited to his lifestyle, and Mia seemed happier, having some distance from the tension that used to fill their house. In here, sweetie, Lisa called back. Mia appeared in the studio doorway, soccer bag slung over her shoulder. At 16 now, she was almost as tall as her mother and had inherited Lisa's eye for detail and composition. How was your weekend with your dad? David asked. Good. He's dating someone new, a lawyer from his firm. She seems nice, but she talks about work a lot. Mia shrugged. At least she makes him happy. He's been way less grumpy lately. Lisa and David exchanged a look. Robert dating someone else had actually been the best thing that could have happened. It meant he was finally moving on and had stopped making Lisa's life difficult. Oh, and Dad said to tell you congratulations on the gallery show, Mia added. I guess his girlfriend told him about it. She knows someone who works there. That was nice of him, Lisa said, and she actually meant it. Her relationship with Robert would never be warm, but they had reached a place of polite cooperation for Mia's sake. The doorbell rang, and Lisa immediately switched into professional mode. That's the Hendersons. David, can you let them in while I set up the lights? The next 2 hours were a whirlwind of activity. David had learned to be Lisa's unofficial assistant during photo shoots, helping with equipment and keeping clients comfortable. Little Tommy Henderson was now 6 years old, and even more energetic than David remembered. But Lisa had a gift for working with children, making them laugh and capturing their genuine expressions. After the Hendersons left, David helped Lisa clean up the studio. This had become their routine. She would work while he took care of other things around the house, and then they would spend the evening together, talking about their days and planning for the future. "I have an idea," David said as they finished putting away the camera equipment. "What kind of idea?" "For the gallery show, I think you should include some of the pictures from our beach weekend, the ones of the old fishermen and the kids playing in the waves. Those are some of your best work." Lisa considered this. "You think so? They're more personal than my usual professional stuff." "That's exactly why they're perfect. They show who you are as an artist, not just what you can do technically." Lisa smiled and kissed his cheek. "This is why I love you. You always know exactly what I need to hear." "Actually," David said, "speaking of things you need to hear, I have something else to tell you." Lisa looked at him curiously. "What?" David pulled a small velvet box out of his pocket. Lisa's eyes went wide and she took a step back. "David, what are you doing?" "Something I should have done months ago," he said, opening the box to reveal a simple but beautiful diamond ring. "Lisa, I know we've both been through difficult relationships before. I know this is complicated because of Mia and the divorce and everything we've both been through. But I also know that I love you. I love your passion for your work. I love how you see beauty in everything around you. I love how strong you are even when you don't feel strong." Lisa was staring at the ring, tears starting to form in her eyes. "I love how you've made me believe in myself again," David continued, "and I love how we've built this life together. So I'm asking you, will you marry me?" For a moment, Lisa didn't say anything. Then she started laughing and crying at the same time. "Are you seriously proposing to me in my photography studio while I'm covered in coffee stains and my hair is a mess? I'm proposing to you exactly as you are right now in this moment, because this is real life and real life is messy and imperfect and beautiful." "Mom?" Mia's voice came from the doorway. "Oh, wow. Is David proposing right now?" "Mia, honey, can you give us a minute?" Lisa said without taking her eyes off David. "Actually," David said, "Mia should probably be part of this conversation. If Lisa says yes, it affects all three of us." Mia came into the room and looked at the ring, then at David, then at her mother. "So, what do you think, Mom?" Lisa looked at her daughter. "What do you think? How would you feel about David being part of our family officially?" Mia grinned. "Are you kidding? He already is part of our family. He just doesn't have the paperwork yet." Lisa laughed and turned back to, "Yes," she said, "yes, I'll marry you. But on one condition. Anything. We do it right. No rushing, no drama, no stress. Just a simple, beautiful wedding with the people we care about." David slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her. "Deal. And," Mia added, "I get to help plan it. I have some really good ideas about flowers." "Also deal," David said, hugging both of them. As they stood there in the makeshift studio surrounded by Lisa's photographs and the life they had built together, David thought about how different his life was now. A year ago, he had been going through the motions, feeling invisible and disconnected. Now he was part of something real, a family that chose each other, supported each other, and wasn't afraid to take risks for love. "So," Lisa said, admiring her ring, "when should we start planning this wedding?" "How about after your gallery show?" David suggested. "Let's celebrate one dream coming true before we start planning the next one." "I like that idea," Lisa said. "Besides, I want to enjoy being engaged for a while. This feels pretty perfect just as it is." And as they stood there together, David, Lisa, and Mia, in their converted dining room studio, surrounded by the evidence of dreams that had come true and new ones just beginning, it really was perfect. Not the kind of perfect that existed in fairy tales, but the real kind of perfect that existed in ordinary moments filled with love, laughter, and the courage to keep choosing each other every single day.